But mostly I find in the creative space that, particularly if you're a high-earning film director, you're getting project after project after project, suddenly you find that you're just caught in that pattern, you're caught in that cycle of continual work, that if you were to let go and say I can't, and you don't accept a certain job, there's a fear that everything will just vanish and dissipate and you won't have more work coming in. That's something that I have noticed with film directors and producers that I know, that there's this constant fear that if they were to say no to certain work, then suddenly all the work would dry up. And I don't think that's true anymore. I think times have changed, but also what is important to you is it the money? Is it your health? Is it the relationships in your life? Is it your family? You know, this is one thing I want to talk about. What is your purpose, really, ultimately, as a creative person? Hello, fellow filmmakers, content creators, and creative directors. My name's Darren Kavanagh, aka The Very Creative Vegan, and this is the first of my Master Your Midlife morning messages. And I'm coming from a very special place today. I'm actually celebrating a second wedding anniversary with my wonderful wife, Emma Garner-Kavanagh, and I'm in Tuscany, of all places, and I'm sitting in a ancient vineyard in a vegan villa called I Pini Agricola, and I'm literally facing an amazing ancient Italian town called San Giacomo. I went there yesterday. Didn't know that it was so close to this place that I was staying in, but it's got these 14 towers that have been built over the past 800-900 years, and the town itself is something to behold. But the reason I'm doing this message now is for fellow filmmakers who may find themselves in a bit of a midlife crisis creatively, or if you've recently gone through a divorce, or if you have certain habits in your life that are not supporting your creative process where you are now. Because for me, my life was never quite like this. You know, I feel that I'm in a very privileged place now, that over the past several years, a lot has happened to me in terms of losing both my parents. I divorced almost 8 years ago, my ex-wife, and I remarried 2 years ago yesterday. I was celebrating my second wedding anniversary. So the whole purpose of my YouTube channel is to really talk about my experience and what I went through that, mostly that period of time from when I finished my first documentary film, going through divorce, knowing that I had a serious drinking issue, and I started attending AA, and all of the journey that I went through across those years, getting to where I am now. And I also have spent 30 years producing video and film content. I used to co-own a film marketing company in London for 20 years called Firebelly, where I worked on 2,500 movies, including Disney was our biggest client. And a lot of those films range from The Lion King, Kill Bill, The King's Speech, The Hunger Games, Senna, a whole raft of high-profile Hollywood movies down to art house movies. And in that 20 years, I was dealing with almost probably in excess of 100 clients over that period of time. And in the business that I co-owned, we ended up employing about 85 people across that whole spectrum. So within that time frame of 20 years, my career also spanned analog right into the digital. There's so much that I learned. There's so many problems that I encountered. There's so many mistakes that I've made, that I can genuinely say, hand on heart, that I can speak from a place of authority to you about all that I experienced. And what I want filmmakers who are watching my content to get from my content is really just some mostly life lessons of things to look out for, of what not to do, of things to avoid, of mistakes to avoid that I did, that you might be going through now, or you might come to facing. So part of these mastering your midlife morning messages, this is going to be the format. For me, I want to sit here in nature, connect with you. Usually as a filmmaker, I edited lots of TV spots and movie trailers that were all very, very fastly cut, edited. For any of you watching that produces movie trailers, you know how much work goes into them in terms of the editing, the amount of time, the amount of decision making. And so I wanted to do the complete opposite with my YouTube channel and not make videos that are so focused on effects, editing, pacing, music. I almost wanted to go a complete 180 and do the complete opposite in terms of what is working for me now is to just really be myself, be authentic, is to speak to you from my heart, speak to you about what went on for me, give you as much value and honest to God lessons that I learned in a way that is like this. It's going to be me sat in nature, no editing, no fancy music, no fancy effects. I just want to speak to you one-on-one and tell you and give you as much insight as I possibly can. And this will be the format that I'm going to start with, that I'm going to basically use for the next 6 months to see how it goes. There's somebody else that I follow on YouTube that uses a similar format to this, and I love his content, and I know certain content like this appeals to certain people and it doesn't appeal to others. And that's part of the reason I'm doing it, because for me, when I watch his videos where it's a similar format, where he sat in nature, he talks about building content and creation and brand marketing for people on YouTube and also content creators. I'll touch upon some of that, but my channel is predominantly for high earning filmmakers who find themselves really stuck in a rut, either be that from a recent divorce or struggling that you've just hit a creative wall and your mojo has died, or if you have certain life habits that are just not supporting that journey. Or also if you've lost someone dear to you. I mean, I've lost both my parents in the past several years. So in a lot of these videos, I'm going to touch upon those specific subjects, how I dealt with them, the problems that I faced, the emotions that I went through, the issues that I had to deal with, and how I got on the other side of that. And not that I'm sitting here saying I'm perfect, that I've got everything sorted out, but one thing I can say is that I've came out the other end. I'm still here, I'm still alive. I am very grateful that now I don't consume alcohol, I don't get driven, I don't worry so much in my head, I don't wake up in a cold sweat, I don't lie in bed at night worrying about work and how I'm going to handle the amount of client calls the next day. I feel that I'm in a place now in my life where I feel calmer, more contented, less driven, and the creative projects that I take on now are much more personal to me. They resonate with me more, and I'm working with people who are in a similar space, rather being driven by survival, by money, by wanting to prove something. But mostly I find in the creative space that, particularly if you're a high earning film director, you're getting project after project after project, suddenly you find that you're just caught in that pattern, you're caught in that cycle of continual work, that if you were to let go and say I can't, and you don't accept a certain job, there's a fear that everything will just vanish and dissipate and you won't have more work coming in. That's something that I have noticed with film directors and producers that I know, that there's this constant fear that if they were to say no to certain work, then suddenly all the work would dry up. And I don't think that's true anymore. I think times have changed, but also what is important to you is it the money? Is it your health? Is it the relationships in your life? Is it your family? You know, this is one thing I want to talk about. What is your purpose, really, ultimately, as a creative person? When was the last time you actually sat down with pen and paper and really wrote down what you're wanting from the work that you're producing? Is it to buy the new fancy Lamborghini or a new house? Is it to create a certain amount of wealth, or is it really to create a certain amount of creative work that speaks to you about what matters to you, that you want to create some kind of creative legacy? Or is it that you're really working to support your family and to support your wife and partner? I'd love to hear in the comments where you're at in your journey. You know, what's going on for you? What is your purpose in this video today, I'll pose the question to you: what is your purpose for doing what you're doing? And if you don't have an answer for that, then I see that potentially as a real issue, because without purpose, we don't really have a vision of where we're going. We don't know what we're doing, and very easily then we can fall into a rut of just continually falling into similar patterns, becoming too stressed, becoming too driven by doing work that we potentially don't want to do, but also we could be attached to certain elements within that work that could be based upon things that don't resonate with us. And where are you at right now? I'd love to know in the comments if you're watching. If you've got this far in the video, then I'm assuming that this format of me talking to you in nature, or with no edits, and telling you authentically about what's gone on for me as a film director that's worked in the business for 30 years, that you are interested in what I have to say. And so if you've got to this point in the video so far, I really appreciate that you're watching this. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. You know, where are you at? Where do you find you're at? What are the struggles? What are the main problems that you're finding right now? And this being the first video, I'm actually staying in Tuscany for the next week with my wonderful wife, and we are celebrating a second wedding anniversary. But several years ago, I was not celebrating a divorce from my dear partner that I'd been with for 17 years. We married in 2002, and then we had just grown apart. I'd spent way too much time working on the first feature film that I was working on, and I'd lost my way, I'd lost my vision, I'd lost the connection between us both. And so we both decided that it was time to end the marriage. And I want to talk about that in this video, that how that affected me, because at the time it literally was like I was hit by a truck. It was like my whole world had ended. I'd lived in London for 23 years. We'd lived together for 18, 19 years. We were married for 17. We decided to sell our property in Teddington in London, move to Glastonbury, start a whole new life, say goodbye to that whole driven, stressful life in London. I was working on my first documentary feature film. My wife at the time, she was going into more animal healing, but she was still doing makeup work. And we'd thrown everything into this new life, into moving to Somerset. And we'd spent a good 2 years getting that working. We'd had my ex-wife's mother moved in to a mobile home in the front garden. We'd spent a lot on the house. I mean, would have been so much time and investment put into this new vision of life. And only 2 years in, the fact that suddenly we'd hit this wall and we decided to separate, for me, it was like the world, the rug had been pulled from under my feet. And how can I describe it for any of you watching that's actually at this point where you've recently separated or you're going through a divorce? For me, because I really loved my partner so much, that it wasn't like we got to this point where there was any conflict in terms of verbal or physical violence, or where we'd been arguing. It would just basically had fizzled out. But for me, when that decision was made, I felt completely and utterly lost, alone, abandoned. Again, to refer for what I was talking about earlier about purpose and vision, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how I felt. And then the reality of living in the same house with my ex-wife, where I was suddenly in a different room from her, that we'd made this decision. The one thing I am going to talk about a lot in these videos of how we managed to remain sane together, how we managed to support one another through the whole process, and what I really want to, if there's one lesson from this first video for anybody, for anyone, for any of you guys that are watching this and going through this process right now, is to really basically care for yourself and watch that you don't get driven and make rash decisions about, right, I've got to move out completely, I've got to take all my things, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Clearly, if you're in a situation and it involves children, that's a very different scenario. But for me, it was really important straight away that I focused on my own feelings and what was going on for me. And only 2 weeks after we decided to separate, my father, who'd been very sick for a number of years, passed away. And I'd finally decided that I'd realised I had a drinking issue, and I'd started attending AA. So almost within the space of like a fortnight, it was divorce, father passed away, and I was attending AA lessons in Glastonbury. So all of these three things came and hit me at once. And as you can imagine, as a film director, as a creative person, literally the day my film was finished, the day after was when my father passed away. And spending like 5 or 6 years on this movie, suddenly that creative mojo, that energy, that focus, all of that energy that I put into the film just felt like it had gone, it had dissipated, because I was so focused on looking after myself. And so that's the first thing that I realized I had to do straight away, that I had to somehow look after me, that it wasn't about my wife, it wasn't about my family or or looking outside of myself to help others, because I was beaten. I was in such a state emotionally and physically. You know, my heart felt broken, I felt empty, I had the butterflies in the stomach. And this isn't attributing blame to anybody. I just want to really honestly talk about how that feels. And for any of you that is watching, who is going through this process right now, who has those feelings of just abandonment and emptiness, the biggest support that I can give you is to look at how you spiritually and physically and mentally can look after yourself. And straight away, the quickest things you can do is to look after your health, is not to give in to overeating or drinking too much alcohol or doing recreational drugs or actually smashing it at the gym or just giving yourself more work and busyness to do. In a way, see how you can nurture and look after yourself as quick and as soon as possible. And the other huge thing I would suggest is to create some structure in those days, because when you feel so lonely and so isolated when this is going on for you, not having any structure can make it feel 100 times worse. And for me, it was really important that I had AA and the people within that group to support me at that point in time. I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't have found the rooms at that point. And I'm not suggesting that any of you who is watching this need to go to AA or that you have such a serious problem with the drink that you may think you're an alcoholic. I'm just sharing my story with you, but the main thing that was so important for me was to have found a group of people that had similar issues to me that I could regularly, and at that point in time I was going to 3-4 meetings a week, and to have that space where I could feel vulnerable, where I could go in beaten and just talk honestly and not be judged and just have someone listen to me was I think it basically saved my life at the time. It absolutely did. So if you're going through divorce right now, if it's an immediate issue for you, that it's a recent thing that's happened and you find yourself in that space of feeling emotionally raw, vulnerable and abandoned. And also there's so many things that come with divorce in terms of the circle of friends that you had when you're together with your partner and how that affects you. My biggest piece of advice from this Mastering Your Midlife morning video is to try and find a circle of people or friends that can support you right away. That also may be through counselling or therapy or a friend who will just listen, or other groups. But if there's something that you can find to support you straight away through this, the one thing I would suggest not doing is trying to figure it out yourself. And I know a lot of you watching this, you guys, you are driven, you're purposeful, you achieve a lot, you are somebody that likes to control things. I'm basically describing myself here right now. You're somebody that doesn't like being told what to do, and you're someone that wants to run the show. And your will, my will, wanted to do that. And so when you get to a point where things are gone, particularly with people that you can't control and they're leaving your life for whatever those reasons are, and you can't control how that's happening, there's almost like an urge for you to control even more. There's an urge for you to want to be doing more, to be being more driven and almost like fight that urge, battle that urge, and see where that is potentially controlling you and can potentially make things so much more worse than they need to be. And that's really the first lesson I want to share with you this morning. It's been an honor to be here with you in beautiful Tuscany, and I'm looking forward to doing more of these videos this week. I'm looking forward to when I go back home to Glastonbury, because I'm going to be recording similar videos like this in the countryside. And if any of you have any questions about the content, about what I'm about to share, about the subjects that I'm going to share, please put them in the comments. But for now, I want to thank you for tuning in to my new channel, to this video. If you've got this far in the video, then I honestly really think you're a person of integrity, a person that cares about themselves and a person that cares about the others around them. But most importantly, I believe that you're a filmmaker that has a vision, that wants to create content that is going to connect with others and ultimately will be of benefit to them and to you and to the world. And if I can help in any shape, way or form of being part in that journey, and if my videos can help you be part of that, then it's a huge honor and a privilege for me to be here to share that message with you. And I'm really excited for the other lessons and life tips and mistakes and shit that I've been through to share with you. And so thanks for watching this first video, and check out this next video where I talk specifically about your health and fitness and how you can improve that if you're particularly going through a severe separation, divorce, or you've got a habit that is not supporting you from a health perspective. So thanks for watching this video, fellow filmmakers. I look forward to speaking with you soon on another beautiful morning like this. Be safe. Love movies, because they'll love you back. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.